Welcome to What the Fantasy, and I am Brandon Hay at HayB3.
And I am Zada Kansabedian at ZCansFF, and I am very happy to be here tonight back with my boy Brandon. Brandon, that opening intro, it was so – I was trying not to laugh. I thought you put some really good clips together. And I always love looking at that last shot of us together during our first show. I feel like that was like when we were like in high school for some reason. I feel like that is so long ago. It's just like – it's just so cool just to have that there and just see that first show every single time.
Definitely, yes. So it's been a couple weeks, so we're just going to do a few minutes where we just kind of do some story time. I have some stories, but first, what have you been up to? I know you were feeling under the weather a couple weeks ago, so I hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, outside of COVID, we had a nasty bug going around here in Southern California. It was different for all people. I just got like the head cold, just drowsy. I feel like I get this every summer at least once. Other people, I've heard stories where they had fevers and then they were throwing up and their kids were throwing up and they're cleaning up vomit here. I don't want to get too graphic, but there was a bug that went down in Southern California for about 2 weeks and people were just destroyed. We had sick calls everywhere. It was a mess. So I think everybody's back up and running here. And yeah, that's what I've been up to, really. Not as much as fun as you had, though.
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, I went on a bachelor party to northern Georgia. We got a house on the lake. They wanted to go golfing, so I'm not a golfer. So me and two other people just rode around and drank beer while they played golf. So that was fun. And then we did a lot of things in the lake. I had consumed quite a bit of alcohol, so I cut my foot pretty bad in the lake, so I was kind of hobbling around the last couple days, and I was still kind of trying to get over that at the expo. So I was pretty tired by the time I got back, and then I went to the expo and flew out on Saturday morning and went up there and stopped by the Dynasty Nerds party at Rich's house, and he has a beautiful house, and that was fun. And then we went to the party at Jersey's, which is an awesome place. It has a big field area, and they were playing the Browns and Jags game, and there were drinks there. Met a ton of cool people. I will say, I did put this on Twitter earlier. Some of my social anxiety really came out, and I think next year I'll do a lot better, but not really knowing anyone, really stepping out of my comfort level and everything. But then I was at one of the sites I work for, the IDP guys. I was at that booth quite a bit the actual day of the expo, and met a lot of people, and we were able to sell some magazines, and it was really fun to sit in on some of the different sessions and everything. So I'll say anyone that did not go this year should definitely go next year. And I hope to have my co-host there next year.
I'll be there next year. I'll be there. I was telling Brandon that I kind of got short-sighted by it because I lost track of. I forgot about the Fantasy Football Expo. I know that's blasphemy, but it was brought to my attention about mid-June, and I was forcing it, and it just didn't. Some things just don't feel right, and I just decided I'll go next year. But I am looking forward to it, and like you, Brandon, like I am kind of like I'm not great socially. I can be social, but I'm more of an introvert, where at like social events like this, I don't force myself to go and meet people all the time. It's not because I don't like people. It's just because I'm more of a watcher than a talker. Like I like to hang out, have a drink, relax, and just kind of like, if you want to come talk to me, I'm more than happy to talk to you. But like, I'm just like, I love sitting and people watching and, just taking in the environment and the energy around me. So yeah, I think if I went, I would have been more on that level. I saw videos of people like all taking shots and getting hammered, and that was fun. That looks definitely fun. But that what would have happened if I was doing that is a whole other story. That would have been a whole different version of me that I would want erased from the Expo history books.
Definitely, and I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, but I was still recovering from the bachelor party a little, so I didn't drink nearly as much. So I don't know, that could have hindered me talking more. But another issue I had was, on Twitter we know everyone by their handles, and not everyone has like their picture up. So a lot of people, there's many times people came up, because we had name tags, and they like knew who I was, and I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And then I had to like kind of talk my way through that. So yeah, that was fun. And another thing that I noticed was a lot of people saying people were either shorter or taller than they thought they were. So that was another thing. So, but it was very fun, and it's a great thing that Bob kind of sets up. And I was able to go to the Hall of Fame. I've never been there before. That was really fun. Took some pictures in there. It was really cool, and and the city of Canton, it was pretty nice, and the weather was very nice. It was a nice change from the humidity down in Florida, so I was very happy about that.
Very cool, man. That sounds like a fun trip. I'll definitely be going next year for sure.
All right, good to hear. So now we're going to continue our love fest for Mr. Kenny Gainwell, and we're actually going to go through some of his plays from the first preseason game. So let me pull that up.
Well, we got a little division on the playing field.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. This definitely worked before.
You can block me out. I don't even care. You can totally block me out.
Oh, now I remember. There we go.
Oh yeah, okay.
No, I figured it out. Okay. Oh, all right. So we'll watch the first play here. So this is a very simple play, but he got some extra yards after he got contact. So I really like that, because the biggest knock on Kenny is that he's a smaller back, so he can't really fight through that contact. So what do you have to say about this play?
Yeah, pretty much similar to the same thing. It was pretty much a straightforward run, just like a power run, and you saw the entire left side of the line just push that Steelers D line to the left and just take him out like kind of like a windshield wiper effect. And you just want to see Kenny, get those yards. And I think that was a straightforward run. Nothing special that stands out over there. He did the job of running back.
Right. So let's go to the next play. This is where he goes in motion. That is one of the things I think he will really do well this year. Catches the ball in the backfield. He eluded someone. You saw a little burst.
Go back to that. Can you go back to that pass play? Yeah, go back a little bit more. It's like the beginning. Yeah, so let's just look at where he's looking for the ball and when he anticipates that corner, that DB coming down. So just play it real quick. So yeah, he looks back for the ball. Pause it. Oh, yeah, we got a little delay on the sound. It's okay. Yeah, I just wanted to see where, when he catches the ball and when he starts looking downfield, I want to know his vision. Is his vision anticipating that guy coming down way before, or does his body movement relay that information? Because sometimes you can watch running backs, the way they set up their feet and their body, you can tell that they saw that guy coming before that pass even got there. They knew that was coming. But I mean, that was a good job by him. I think Kenny Gainwell is the best receiver in this class, and I don't think he's getting enough credit for that. We're watching preseason football, and I asked a question to somebody earlier, and I asked, is it possible if Kenny Gainwell gets about 150 touches? And that's a little aggressive, but I think people are being very short-sighted on what Kenny Gainwell can do as a receiver. I don't know if they're aware of what he's done as a receiver and where he lined up in Memphis. He didn't just line up out of the backfield. He was actually used as a receiver. This guy is multifaceted. We saw on show 2 or 3 that we did that I mentioned he was a quarterback as well. This guy's an all-around tool. I think he's going to be used as a receiver, and he's going to put up some solid points during the week. So, yeah, I mean, this is par for the course for Kenny Gainwell, just catching passes out of the backfield.
Right, definitely. So let's keep going. We'll go on to the next play. This is another run, and he shows some good burst to the
Look at that.
outside, a little
Look
bit
at
of a
that.
stiff arm.
Little stiff
So
arm right there.
right, definitely like that. Just shows he can get to the outside, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of these plays just show he has more power than people give him
Yep.
credit for. And
Yep.
I don't think he'll ever be, just the main running back, but he can definitely be in for those first and second downs. So let's go ahead and go on to the next play.
1st and 20.
And
Yeah. So
this
this is
is
like
yeah,
this is an interesting play because the entire offensive line was passing like they were blocking like they were pass blocking. You saw them all taking their kick steps backwards instead of like pushing forwards or pulling guards.
right.
So you see that. So I guess it was kind of like a draw play.
Yeah, I do remember I
Yeah.
saw this play live, and it just shows some of his burst, and I think they
Yeah.
could use him a lot in those type of plays, like draws and everything, just to get him out in space.
And it makes me wonder how many times the Eagles are going to run out of shotgun because every play we've seen, I believe Kenny Gainwell's been an offset shotgun, and I believe they're going to run that RPO. So I think if they do run the RPO, we're going to see a lot of shotgun with Kenny Gainwell in the backfield. Man, I think, dude, Kenny Gainwell out of RPO with Jalen Hurts, I can't wait to see that.
Definitely, and he was in the shotgun with Joe Flacco most of the time, so they,
Right.
Joe Flacco isn't a runner, obviously, so that's the kind of
Obviously.
offense they're trying to instill. And I think this might be the last play we have, but I really like this play, so we'll go ahead and run it. He's out of the backfield, even slips, gets up, makes a catch, breaks a couple tackles, and fights for extra yards. So I know we talked before the show. This is one of the plays that I really liked because it just shows that he can fight through those arm tackles. He kind of slipped and still was composed and caught the ball in his good hands. And I think he's going to be great after the catch. So I think that's obviously something that he looks really good at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now I just have a couple of things to say. I haven't heard that Miles Sanders is continued to drop some passes in practice. So obviously that opens it up for Kenny. But I'll say the other side too. I did hear that Gainwell had a drop in practice against the Patriots. It ended up an interception. So that's obviously not great. And before we move on from Kenny Gainwell, my hot take is that Kenny Gainwell is going to finish as a top 24 running back this year.
Do you mind if I ask what your logic in that would be? Is there like a pathway you see to it that him just taking like the number 2 job, or like is it just a 50-50 split between him and Sanders?
I think it's going to be similar to what Nyheim Hines did last year. And the only thing is, I think he could get more running than Hines did. I think since Sirianni came from Indy, they're going to utilize him a lot like that. And like you said, putting him out at wide receiver. We saw that Devonta Smith got nicked up early, and they have Rager, but they don't really have a ton after that. That's proven. So I think they'll use him a lot out there. And if you think about it, I think I looked it up. It's probably 10 to 12 points per game PPR. So even if he just gets 3 or 4 catches a game, it's not really that hard for him to be, in the top 24, top 30 range. I know a lot of people won't agree with that, but that is my hot take.
I like it. I like it a lot. And like we said before, like they can line him up all over the place. Yes, Boston Scott is a good receiver. I can hear everybody saying it now, but Boston Scott's being the pass catching back. Look, I know he's a good receiver, but they're just different types of receivers. You can have Miles Sanders on the field and Kenny Gainwell on the field at the same exact time, and Kenny Gainwell on the line of scrimmage and Sanders in the backfield. And I wrote a piece on Boston Scott last year, right? He was one of my favorite sleepers last year. I could share it with everybody, whoever wants it. They can just hit me up and I'll give it to them. I thought Boston Scott was going to be an awesome value last year. Boston Scott with Miles Sanders injured last year, he didn't even do much. Even in the games he played with Miles Sanders, he didn't even do much. I mean, he's a good, reliable guy. He can do it all. He can run, but Gainwell's better. Look, I'm going to say it right now, Kenny Gainwell is better. Boston Scott they're two different animals, and Kenny Gainwell is a better runner and receiver than Boston Scott. I mean, We're watching preseason football right now. Yeah, Boston Scott's going to get the snaps before him in the first preseason game of the year because that's just how it goes. Seniority rules. He's the incumbent. But they're not going to show you what they plan to do with these players in the preseason. Just keep that in mind.
No, I agree. And I mean, they had Miles Sanders, they had Boston Scott, and they went out and still, drafted Kenny Gainwell, which, kind of is the same type of running back. So, it's not like he's a power back and they have two, smaller backs. They picked another guy that's similar but better. So I just think I agree. I think he is eventually going to get more of those touches than Boston Scott. I'm sure Boston Scott will still get some of those touches.
Sure.
But I just think once Gainwell kind of shows his explosion on the field, in some of those clips you kind of saw it, and some of his tough running, I just don't think they'll be able to keep him off the field.
Right.
Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is it's a redraft. Josh Jacobs versus James Robinson. I saw you put something about this on Twitter the other day. So since you put it out, let me get your thoughts.
Yeah, sometimes when I put things on Twitter, they're more thought experiments because I like to push against the current a lot. I'm very contrarian when it comes to fantasy football, just to keep everybody's minds malleable so we don't all fall into the same streamlined thought process. I like to get people thinking critically, right? And I haven't done projections on anything. It was just something I thought of at the time. But how far off is Josh Jacobs from James Robinson, given their respective backfield situations when you have Kenyon Drake and Josh Jacobs in the same backfield and Travis Etienne and James Robinson in the same backfield, right? I think it's fair to assume that the Raiders defense is not going to be as good as the Jaguars defense, given their weapons, their receiving weapons, and Travis Etienne there. I just have the assumption and the impression that James Robinson is on a better defense. James Robinson did get more targets last year than Josh Jacobs, and that's both of them not having a receiving back to really a receiving back of note to take away targets from them. So it's more of a thought experiment. I just kind of put it out there and wanted to see what the vibe was. And sure, everybody thought, yeah, Josh Jacobs, no problem. And I think I'd lean Josh Jacobs too, but I don't think it's necessarily that far apart from each other. Then again, if you count Travis Etienne cutting into, James Robinson's, we just don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I think that's the thing with Josh Jacobs is I think we're more certain with what's going to happen with Josh Jacobs than we are with James Robinson and Travis Etienne because we just don't know what Urban Meyer's planning to do yet. That's all that really comes down to.
No, I agree, and it did surprise me at first because I like Josh Jacobs as a player. I don't love how they utilize him in LA or Las Vegas, and they move too much. I forget where the Raiders are, and I've been big on. I think JROB is going to have a huge role on this team, and I remember when Travis Etienne got drafted, a lot of people came at me, because I was like, James Robinson's not going away, and everything. And I kind of looked, I broke down some stuff before the show, and projection wise, I have Jacobs about 6 spots ahead of Jay Robinson. Funny thing is, I have both of them getting the 55% of the carries. J-Rob getting 7% of targets while Jacobs only 6. Around, Jacobs about 100 more yards and a couple more touchdowns. So the main thing is I just see Jacobs getting more carries overall. I still think James Robinson will get majority for the Jags, but I think still I think Trevor Lawrence will get some carries. I don't necessarily think the Raiders will run the ball with Derek Carr that much. So I do have Jacobs higher, but as you're saying, it's not as wide of a gap as people will try to make it out.
Right. Yeah, it really isn't. And I ran a poll that asked James Robinson or Myles Gaskin, and I don't know if you saw the results of that poll. It was overwhelmingly James Robinson in favor of James Robinson, 66% to 24% for Myles Gaskin. So people are jumping ship at Myles Gaskin. We can talk about that another time. We can talk about that now, but James Robinson so far, yeah, massive majority by a massive margin prefer James Robinson to Myles Gaskin currently.
I think that's funny too because there's been big shifts. Like when Travis Etienne got drafted, everyone was like, you should have got rid of James Robinson. And then they heard Travis Etienne was out at receiver, so they're like, oh, maybe James Robinson. And then they saw preseason him running. He was running hard, and there's reports that he's going to run the ball and everything. And now they're kind of jumping back on that. I think I've consistently said I think James Robinson and Travis Etienne are both going to be running back twos this year to around top 24. They're going to have really big games, each of them, where they might be, top 8. Not going to necessarily know, so you just kind of have to ride it out. But that is weird about the Myles Gaskin thing because I know that the Dolphins did say that they're going to use all those running backs. So obviously that is a concern. But so far, Myles Gaskin looks like the top running back there. It might just be coaches talk that they're going to use a committee, but that is interesting that people are kind of coming off Myles Gaskin now.
Yeah.
Okay, now we'll move into some of our thoughts on preseason week 1. So if you want, you can do one of yours, and then I'll do one of mine, so you can start.
Yeah, I'm convinced that Jonnu Smith is going to be a focal point and centric to the Patriots offense. If you haven't thought that by now, I think you should start really considering that Jonnu Smith is going to be the best value at tight end that you can get towards the end of your drafts. I think Bill Belichick has been searching for a tight ends like Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry ever since Gronk and Hernandez ended. These two tight ends are pivotal for that offense. He reached for 2 tight ends in the 3rd round last year in Devin Asiasi and Dalton Keene, which just flat out fell on its face. Jonnu Smith, you saw Josh McDaniels in the first quarter within a few snaps. You saw him get Jonnu Smith in space on play design. Jonnu Smith is a yards after the catch guy. You can have Jonnu Smith running drags. You can have Jonnu Smith running behind the line of scrimmage. I fully expect Josh McDaniels to make Jonnu Smith one of the centric pieces of this offense. I think it's going to rely heavily around the 2 tight ends. And last week's preseason games were further proof to my point.
I agree. If you didn't put it on there, that was going to be one of mine. I saw one play where they ran a drag with him, and how many teams run those kind of plays with tight ends? And they ran him across. He beat the I want to say it was a linebacker and stiff arm someone for yards. I think as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be the biggest part of that offense. And I think they're trying to fit what Cam kind of does well, get some short, quick passing. Let the guys get in space. I think that's definitely a good call on that. So my first take is everyone was very excited when the Cardinals selected Rondale Moore, and people are just kind of concerned if Cliff is going to use him correctly. And from what I saw, at least for the first game, it's wheels up for Rondale. They ran him on a couple of reverses. They threw him some short passes, yards after the catch. He looked good. He looked quick. As long as he can stay healthy, knock on wood, because that's always been his biggest deal with the soft tissue injuries. So my biggest thing from there is just I think he could be the second option on that offense. Receiving wise, it's obviously D-Hop, and then I think he's going to be the second option there, and it's going to open up so much for Kyler and that offense.
And it might be just me, but imagine how many different ways they can use and deploy him, and it starts making me think. It starts to get me thinking, how does this affect Chase Edmonds when you have a weapon like Rondale Moore, who's just a bigger, faster, better catcher than Chase Edmonds is? And Chase Edmonds was kind of that role that Rondale Moore was. It can mean nothing at all. It can mean nothing at all. But man, Rondale Moore is going to see a butt ton of targets. He's going to see a lot of targets in his offense. And it didn't even take that long for Cliff to confirm that for us. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. My second thought of the preseason was going back to my guy, Jacob Harris. If you don't know by now, Jacob Harris is one of my favorite guys that came out of this draft. He's the tight end for the He's the tight end for the Los Angeles Rams. The guy's a wide receiver. He's a tight end, but he and Tyler Higbee are 2 completely different tight ends. He got 4 of 6 targets. I believe it was 6 targets last week against the Chargers. They lined him up as they gave him slot. They gave him slot. Let him line up in the slot against linebackers. They had him run out of the slot skinny posts. He showed his yardage after the catch. They had him line up 1v1 versus DBs. He is raw, though. He does need to learn how to secure the ball a little bit better. You saw him running routes on DBs and struggling a little bit, not because he couldn't handle the physicality, but more so in his technique as a route runner and selling the route. There was one route where he ran essentially a go route to the end zone. It was thrown to him. He caught it out of bounds. He was a little bit slow where he tried to sell the dig. He was just a little bit slow on it, and he couldn't get up. He couldn't get off his man in time to go get the ball. I think if he got there sooner, he would have been able to get a touchdown. But I think it's evident in the way that Sean McVay was moving him behind the line of scrimmage and getting him passes for first downs. And this is Sean McVay's new favorite toy. I think Jacob Harris doesn't necessarily this year need to become a great pass blocker. He just needs to work on and refine some route running aspects to get on the field and become a legitimate threat. I don't think he's going to be insanely great for fantasy, but I think we're going to see him. I think where he's closer to seeing the field than most gave him credit for originally.
No, I totally agree. And I wasn't as high on him early on, but I saw what he was doing in the preseason. So I've, tried to get him. I've done a couple trades that are fairly risky that I might bring up later, but it's kind of Debbie related. But I took a lot of risk, but I'm hoping it pays off. I know it won't really come in necessarily this year, but I'm hoping he can kind of make that Waller type ascension, to be that kind of player. So the second thing that I saw in preseason was I've not been a huge Tua fan, but I thought he looked decisive. He was throwing in tight windows that he wasn't last year. He showed some of his escapability. Another thing, I was kind of worried with Gesicki, how that was going to really go, but he was really targeting him in tight windows. But the biggest thing is he looked like the old Tua at Alabama, just throwing in those tight windows, and he doesn't even have all of his weapons. So I was really impressed by him, and I might have to move him up on some of my rankings because he looked a lot better than I anticipated. So maybe last year was just mostly because of that injury. And with the running back situation in Miami, you got to imagine that they're going to pass the ball a little bit more since there's not a go-to guy there.
Can I ask? I didn't actually. That's somebody I got to watch. I'll probably watch that tonight. That's one of the players I didn't watch from last week. Can I ask? All I saw was that pick six, or not pick six, but the pick in the end zone. What happened on that play?
I did see that too. Yeah, that was one he did force, but there was other ones where he threw into some tight windows. That one he definitely did force. That's
great.
Going to be one of those, young quarterback, just trusts his arm probably too much. But I will say I'm okay with that because I thought he was very hesitant last year to let the ball go. He was waiting for guys to come completely open. So it was nice to see that he at least, was throwing the ball in tight windows, showing some anticipation on routes. So I'm just hoping that he kind of worked some of those forces out in preseason. I know, as a young quarterback, he's going to have some of those this year.
That's great. That's a great observation that you saw that he was throwing into tight windows, making those NFL throws, because that just kind of speaks to the fact that he has some confidence. He's not holding the ball. He's just letting it go. Good observation. My third and final observation from preseason week 1 is Dallas Goedert is not to be touched in fantasy football for the time being, especially at his current ADP. It didn't look good. I just went back and play charted. I went back and charted what the snaps were and how many snaps Ertz saw on the different packages. Basically, this is what I saw. On the field with Jalen Hurts, when the Eagles were running 12-man formations, they ran, I believe they ran 3 12-man formations, and Dallas Goedert was on the field with Zach Ertz for every single one. But when it came to 3 wide receiver formations, when it came to 11-man formations, when there's only one tight end on the field, it was Ertz with 5 of them and Dallas Goedert with 2 of them. So they ran 7 11-man snaps. Ertz got 5 of those as a lone tight end, and Goddard only got 2. And then one time, then they ran it out of empty one time, which is basically just no running back and all receivers on the line of scrimmage and one tight end. Ertz had that snap to himself. So I don't know if they're trying to sell Ertz in the final waiting moments of the preseason, or if this is like, if they're just like, no, we're going back to this. If we see this for a couple more weeks out of the preseason, even one more week out of the preseason, I am fully out of Dallas Goedert. I am not going to do this. I'm not doing this. This is a mess. With that said, go get Ertz. Ertz isn't even being drafted. Go get Ertz. So, yeah, not good for Dallas Goedert.
I totally agree on that take. I keep on hearing, they were going to either release Ertz, trade him, might go to Buffalo or Indianapolis, which I would love. But as long as they keep him, I mean, he's not – Goddard is not going to get that full, amount of targets there. And you probably won't know week to week who's going to get targeted at the tight position. So I do agree. It is a rough situation because I've seen Goddard go, pretty early in drafts. And, I think for the future in Dynasty, obviously he has, more value. But for 2021, I think it's definitely concerning. And like you said, they might be trying to get his trade value up. But I would think with a young team, they would try to get who they're going to have, in the season or who they think they will. So I guess we'll see how that plays out. So now we'll move into our weekly topic about dynasty trade. So this one I found on Twitter, and just remember everyone that follows us on Twitter, you send us some of your trades, we can talk about it, and we'll shout you out on the show. So this one is one side you would get Zeke and T.J. Hawkinson, and the other side will get Stephon Diggs, Corey Davis, and Travis Etienne. This is a tight end premium trade, and we kind of talked about this before the show. While I don't think it's that far apart, I would take the Diggs side just because he's a top 3 receiver for probably a couple more years. Corey Davis is, if not the number 1 receiver in New York, the second, and get a lot of targets. And Travis Etienne looks to be a big part of the Jags offense, and moving forward, you would think have a good long career with them. So what's your take on the trade?
It's tough because Diggs is just such a great part, especially in PPR dynasty leagues. He's just such a great addition. I know Zeke is, he's getting up there in age. I think the Zeke and Hawk side can win you leagues. Win you a league this year more so than the Diggs and Corey Davis and Etienne side. So I'd say if you want to win now, take the Zeke and Hawk side. But going forward, like for the long term, I want Diggs, Corey Davis, and Etienne. I think Diggs is just, fantastic, and Corey Davis is going to be solid, and Etienne's just brand new blood coming to the NFL. You got that young running back blood. That stuff's like worth its weight in gold. You can trade that on the black market. It's just the best. If I was a vampire, I'd be going for young running back blood. That's the stuff. That's the good stuff. But that got weird. But yeah, and I also mentioned on Twitter, and I got a lot of crap for it. But I'm kind of I'm not trusting Hawks' projected target volume going forward. I'm a little more skeptical about it. I think Hawk being in the top 5 this year and being drafted as a top 5 tight end is more about the assumption that he's going to receive about 140 targets, and that is elite tight end target volume. So if we're expecting that, and the premise is that there's no other real talent around him, it's hard for me to believe that he's going to be receiving that volume going forward, because if this is the worst that the Lions are with Hawk on the Lions, then they can only go up from here. They can only add better weapons. Amon-Ra, St. Brown can only get better. DeAndre Swift is going to be involved. I don't know how Hawk sustains elite 140 target volume going forward, if he even gets that this year. I'm not saying Hawk isn't a bad talent, and I'm not saying you shouldn't keep Hawk on your team, but if somebody offers you 2 future firsts and some change, sell Hawk. Sell Hawk. Get the haul. Go ahead. This is a whole other discussion we're having right now, but it's not outlandish to say sell Hawkinson. I don't see why his future target volume is so sustainable. So that said, I'm taking Diggs, Corey Davis, and Travis Etienne.
I tend to agree. Maybe Hawk's value is a little too high. I think part of it is just the tight end position. After the top three, then you pretty much have Pitts, Andrews, Hawk, and Fant, and you're trying to find the next guys, in that side. I think that's why Hawk has kind of gone up, and that the lack of faith in those wide receivers. But I do agree, if you get a good deal, I think you have to do that with Hawkinson. So that's our trade for this week, and now we'll go into our fun topics portion, where we just talk about some would you rather and some different ranking type things. So the first one is, how do you want to live your life, by Hakuna Matata from The Lion King or YOLO. So I'll let you start.
What does Hakuna Matata mean?
No worries.
Oh, okay. I forgot. And then YOLO is you only live once, so you're just being kind of like irrational about your decisions and just doing things.
Yes, you're being reckless.
Reckless. Oh man. Well, when you put it like that, who wants to be reckless? For me, the two philosophies kind of intervene, because if you're just kind of living no worries, you're not really worried about the outcome of what you're going to do, right?
Yeah, I can see where it would intertwine, but my take, at least, is the no worries is that you're kind of relaxed, carefree. If something happens, it doesn't really bother you. And whereas YOLO is, you are more of a risk taker. You don't. That's at least my take on it.
Okay. So if we're going along that logic, I'm definitely more of a Hakuna Matata guy, because I'm just naturally like that. I'd prefer to be like that. I've kind of developed this philosophy in life where, as I've gotten older, and I'm not old. I'm turning 39 this month, in a couple weeks actually, but as I've gotten older, I've decided, like, when I was younger in college and I was very like politically active and I was always just having debates with people, and as I've gotten older, I just realized, don't worry about the things you can't control. You're just one man. Stop trying to control every little thing. And, if the world's going to end by a meteor tomorrow, whatever, dude, it's out of your control. There's so many things that are out of your control. Just no worries, man. Like, if there's something you want to do in life, just don't be worried about all the bad things in your mind, because the second you want to do something, like, I always feel like your mind makes up all these excuses to hold you back from doing it, to keep you in that safety zone that you're in, which it might not even be safe, but it's just familiarity. And it's kind of like a survival technique. But at the same time, it's also like, no worries, man. Like, do what you want to do. Don't worry about things you can control. Just go forward in life, walk through the right doors, and just, take care of yourself and get some sleep and eat as well as you can. And I don't know, man, just chill out. That's kind of my thing. Like, I don't really jump into gossip too much. And we were talking before the show, and we were talking during the show, and I was saying, like, if I went to Ken, like, I'd be more like kind of chilled out and just kind of relaxing, is because I don't really feel like I have to be involved in everything. I just kind of like, I'm very much no worries. I'm just chilling out. I'm very much like that. I think so. Hakuna Matata, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And also, I think people that go by the motto of YOLO are tend to be kind of douchey. And
I get that. I could get that. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have a good friend that
I'm so glad I didn't pick YOLO.
I wouldn't have said that if you picked it, but I have a friend that has sunglasses that they kind of look like those stunner shades, and it says "yo" on one side and "low" on the other one, and
Yikes.
like we all always make fun of him for wearing those. But just before we move on, one thing, I don't know how familiar you are with the movie The Lion King. Are you a fan?
I saw it a long time ago. I like it. Some people are diehards about it. It's cool. I like it a lot.
Okay, well, I don't know if you remember. There's a song where where Simba, the young lion, is talking about he can't wait to be king.
Yeah.
And then eventually his father dies.
But spoilers, dude. Spoilers, man. What are you doing?
Hey, I think everyone that's wanted to see The Lion King has seen it already. But my thinking is, if he wants to be king, the only way he can be king is if his father dies.
Sure. I mean, like by natural causes.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
Not if he's murdered
I've
by his
always just
brother.
thought. Yeah, I was always just thought that. Maybe that's why he was so worried, because since he was singing that song, people would think that he actually pushed his father off the ledge.
Oh, so you think like people saw him singing the song "I Can't Wait to Be King"? They're like, "Wait a minute, dude, that guy was just singing about I
Yeah,
can't wait to be king 2 days
yeah,
ago.
that
Now his
might be
dad's
why
dead."
he ran away. That might be why he ran away, because he was worried.
That's, it sounds like a hole. It sounds like a hole in the script right there, man. That sounds like a hole in the script.
I
I don't know how
know,
many
I
people.
know.
I wonder how many people have thought about that.
Probably not that many, but when I came up with this, I was like, I want to bring up this. I want to bring up this thought. This, you know.
When we
So
finally hang out, for the first time, I can't wait to find out. I can't wait to see what our conversations are going to be when we're like fourth beer, fourth cocktail in.
yeah,
We got to bring
it's
up
gonna
things.
it's gonna be great. So the next thing is, I know you came up with this one. So the top three bar games. So do
Yeah,
you
I
want to
love
go
bar
first?
games. Yes, I do. I love bar games and I love bars. I love both. I like bars. I like bars better than nightclubs, and I think bar games are so much fun. I think it's so boring when you go to a bar and there's nothing to do. Like you got to have some kind of activity. And me and my core group of friends, we are so competitive with everything we do. I hate losing to them. I hate losing to them. And I started the only reason I got better at fantasy football and got so into fantasy football is because I wanted to beat these guys I'm telling you about right now. Like my core group of friends from high school, I didn't want to lose to them. So I had to understand fantasy football. Consequently, is that even a word? I'm going to say consequentially. I don't know if I can't remember if that's a word or not. I got better at fantasy football. But anyways, my top three barroom games are pool, billiards. Some of you may know it as. I used to play a lot of pool. I used to compete in 9-ball tournaments. I love pool. I would love to have a pool table in my house one day. And I would love to have a home too one day. That would be awesome as well. So I got to get the home first and the pool. And second game, ping pong. I think that's a bar game. I think you've seen that in bar sometimes, a nice ping pong table,
Yeah,
right?
I agree. That's
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. And then darts is my number 3. I love cricket. I don't know if you guys play a lot of cricket, but cricket's so fun on a dartboard. So those are my top 3 games.
So one thing, since you've played contests in 9-ball, when we meet, I
Yeah.
will not be playing you in pool or
Okay.
darts, because
Oh.
I'm horrible at both. I'm actually horrible at all 3 games. I mean, I'll play darts. When I play darts, pretty much I'm pretty good when we start, because I can get it on the board, But where I struggle is when you have to like focus in, on like the triples on 20 or something like that.
Triples? Yeah. Triple
Yeah,
20s?
that's where it all goes downhill.
It's like that big of a space. It's like you have to throw it into like that
Yeah,
big of space.
yeah, I can hit it, when I'm not trying, but whenever I try to focus in, not too great at that. So so my 3 top bar games are not as conventional as yours. One is shuffleboard. I think that's so much fun. Not a lot of places have it. I've actually looked to try to buy it for my house, and it is ridiculously expensive. But the couple bars that it's at, I think it's so much fun to play. And like you said, me and my friends are very competitive, so we have that. And then another, it's kind of associated with pool, I guess. It's called bumper pool. Have you ever played that?
Mm-hmm. I haven't played it, but I know about it.
Yeah. So there's one bar that is out by the beach in Jacksonville. It's called Pete's. It's a hole in the wall bar. They have that, but me and my wife will go there and play that, and we are not very good. We've played against other people and lost, 6-0, but we still like to go play. So that's another game we like. And lastly, there's another bar in the Riverside area in Jacksonville. It's called Rogue, and they have all these liquor bottles up on the wall, and you can pay to get these rings, and you do a ring toss. And if you get the rings on the liquor bottle spouts, then you get a free shot. Well, I guess it's
Oh,
not free since you pay for the rings, but it's a really fun time. And back when I was in my early 20s, me and my friend went there and we decided that we were going to do a contest. Each of us get 25 rings, and whatever the other person makes, those are the shots you have to take.
Oh,
So
that's so brutal. That's so
so
brutal. I would
yeah,
never play
so
that game.
he made 15, I made
Oh,
13. But the only thing
no.
was he made all of his at the beginning. So, I was getting drunk at the beginning, but then I made like 10 of my 13, like my last like 12 shots. So he had to do like 10 straight shots. So
Bro.
needless to say, we had a very rough night and the next morning. So those are my 3 bar games.
Oh, I'm gonna throw up in my mouth right now just thinking about 15 shots coming to me. Oh my god,
It
that's
was it
so
was not it
brutal.
was not it was not great.
That's
Another
so
thing
brutal.
was after this, and another and this was during the day. Like this was probably about 3 p.m. that we did this. We were
Yeah.
waiting for his it's his wife now, but it was then his girlfriend to get off work. So we're like, let's just go have a couple beers, and then it turned into let's do this contest, and then turned into we both had too many shots.
And
I ended up
she comes to pick.
I ended I ended up standing outside the bathroom for 20 minutes because I thought someone was in there, and then one of the bartenders had to tap me on the shoulder and tell me no one's in there. So, um, so that
Yeah,
was
dude,
that was
I
a
love it.
that was a fun time. So that's what you have to look forward to whenever we do meet.
You're standing outside the bathroom, like, dude, what is taking this guy so long, man? What the
Yeah, I
hell,
mean, I
dude?
was just standing there,
And you're such a nice person. I'd be like, dude, what the heck, man? Open up. Let's go. Take it outside. Go to Starbucks. What's wrong with you, dude? Like, come on.
Yeah, totally.
Work at
So,
the bar.
and the bartender was so nice about it. So yeah, so those are our bar games, and whenever we
Yeah.
meet, I hope we can play some of
Oh, for
those. And
sure. Wait, there's
yeah,
the bar down the street from my house. It's 5 minute walk. It's called the Shores Bar. We got a shuffleboard table and we got a pool table.
oh,
So
that's awesome. Is that where you got the that you showed me you got that Bloody Mary, or is that somewhere
no,
else?
that was from the boatyard cafe where my neighbor works, which is in the harbor down the way.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
all right, so those are our fun games. So now let's
Yes.
since we have preseason week 2 coming up, let's go into a couple games we're looking forward to watching this week. So I'll go first. So the first is this is kind of a homer thing, but I'm looking forward to seeing the Jags and the Saints game. It's on Monday night. Some of the things I want to look at is really are the Jags going to play better? They really struggled against the Browns. The Browns were not playing a lot of their starters. I know the Browns are a good team. But I want to see does Trevor Lawrence continue to progress? People kind of were talking about how Urban didn't name a starter. I think that's just him trying to play games, get motivation. I just want to see Trevor continue to play well against a good defense. Will the offensive line continue to struggle, or will it do better? Will it play better? Early on there were some sacks on Trevor, and they want to clean that up. Also, since DJ Chark is out this preseason, I want to see if they continue to give the ball to Chenault short, and then also if Marvin Jones is going to ascend to maybe being one of their top options, and also the running back rotation. Want to see if it continues how I think it will go. James Robinson's kind of the inside runner, and then Etienne gets some of the outside runs and some of the passing work. Etienne didn't really have any splash plays against Brown, so I'd like to see that. And on the Saints side, I want to see the QB battle, how it continues. I think Jameis should start for the Saints, but I'd like to see if he continues to play well or if he does some Jameis type things and causes Sean Payton to go with Taysom Hill. And then just Tony Jones, if he continues to look good and kind of maybe take that third running back spot and be the future when they might let go Latavius Murray. And lastly, if Marquez Callaway continues to look very good and be a go-to receiver while Michael Thomas is out.
Right on, and I like that you got Tony Jones up there. That's one of my favorite UDFA. Was he UDFA? I believe he was a UDFA last year. So I'm really looking forward to him because he'll be the number 3 back on that team. But say Latavius Murray gets cut, which was my initial impression when I watched him, that he's going to get cut. And say Devontae Freeman comes, Devontae Freeman is not going to play healthy the entire year. If Devontae Freeman's not healthy, is Tony Jones Jr. the next man up behind Alvin Kamara? So keep your eye out on Tony Jones Jr. Do not forget, keep your eye out whenever that name comes up on the internet. Just stop and read. Okay. And speaking of UDFAs, that's a good segue to my next game that I'm looking forward to watching. The Raiders at Rams. Trey Ragas, I think he's pronounced Trey Ragas. He's a UDFA that signed on with the Raiders this year. And he had a great game last week. I think he had like 12 or 13 rushes for 62 yards, above 60 yards, 1 rushing touchdown, and like 2 or 3 receptions for like 20-something yards. I should have got the stats. I'm dumb. I should have got the stats. But Trey Ragas is another guy I think you should be keeping your eye on. People are sleeping on him. When I was watching his film in July, I put a tweet up. I'm like, how is Trey Ragas not drafted? How did he go undrafted? And sure enough, like that first preseason game, he's balling. Nathan Peterman played the entire game and looked good. I'm just curious to watch what Nathan Peterman can do. I know John Gruden loves him. He just won't let him go. So I'm just kind of stoked to watch Nathan Peterman. I think this is going to be the offseason of Nathan Peterman. This is going to be Nathan Peterman's preseason. So we'll see what happens with him if he keeps looking good. I don't know. He's there just for football's sake. Jacob Harris on the Rams side. I think Jacob Harris, again, like we were talking about earlier, let's see how he develops. I don't know how much more he can develop in a week, but I think he'll come away with some lessons learned when watching the tape. I think he'll learn while watching, tape during game speed of how he played last week, of how to secure the ball better, of how to release and go in and out of his breaks. And also the Rams running back battle. I don't think that's settled yet. I think Xavier Jones probably has the edge on Jake Funk, but I still feel like they're not really too comfortable with the running backs there. So I want to further watch that battle.
Yeah, I agree on those. The Peterman is kind of funny because when he was with the Bills, I have a friend that's a Bills fan, and we had a bet like if Peterman would start there and everything, and I think that was the game where he threw like 1 million interceptions. So,
6
but we'll
interceptions
see.
against the Chargers. That was 6 interceptions against the Chargers. I know that because I had the Chargers D that week.
So that turned out well for you. So,
so good. Destroyed. Yeah.
So the second game I'm looking forward to is the Broncos and Seahawks. The Broncos looked very good against the Vikings. Drew Lock played well. Actually, Teddy Bridgewater played well too. But my main thing is if Lock continues to look good, that I think that offense could do great things this year and be very explosive and have a lot of fantasy assets. And on top of that, KJ Hamler, I was a big fan of when he was coming out of college from Penn State. I thought, he was very explosive, and he's tougher than people think because of his smaller size. But once he went to the Broncos, I wasn't too happy because I just didn't think they could support that many receivers. But he had some nice plays, and if Drew Lock continues to improve, I think he could be set up for a very big year. Also, Jerry Jeudy continued to bounce back. I saw him have some nice plays in the game against the Vikings. I think it was overblown, his drops last year. I think just all of those receivers had to move up a spot on the depth chart because of Cortland Sutton's injury, and they weren't ready for that. Also, the inconsistent quarterback play. So I think Jerry Jeudy's going to show why he was a first-round pick. And then for the Seahawks, I don't know if Russell Wilson will play. I doubt DK Metcalf will play. And I saw that Tyler Lockett is still dinged up. So I want to know who the backup running back to Chris Carson will be. DJ Dallas has been getting a lot of hype in camp and played very well in the preseason game. And I just read today that Rashard Penny is back and he should play. So can he stay healthy, or is he going to lose that job to DJ Dallas? And lastly, I did also saw today that there is a beat writer that reported Dwayne Eskridge, their second-round wide receiver, is back in practice today. So they looks like he's going to play in the game. They say he's looked very good in the rookie mini camps, and he's been working with Russell Wilson a lot. So I want to see what he can do, and if he can make an impact in that second preseason game.
Okay, cool, right on. Yeah, Alex Collins, I think also it might be something. I hear Alex Collins rumblings every once in a while, but I don't know. Also, I'm sorry that it's so dark in my room. The sun's going down sooner now, and it's just anyways, whatever. It's getting dark. I got to remember to put lights on. So, anyways, I want to my next game of interest is the Patriots at Eagles. I want to see what more of Quez Watkins. I wasn't too familiar with him, so I want to see what else he can do. I know he took that one touchdown to the house from Joe Flacco, which was like a simple, like pretty much screen. Again, I want to watch those tight end splits. Let's watch those tight end splits between Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz. How does that play out? Do we see that same consistent pattern of Zach Ertz getting the majority of reps in 11-man personnel and passing down situation? Basically, this passing down personnel packages, empty 11-man personnel. Because Dallas Goedert is the better blocker, so I think they're going to want to keep him in line more. It's kind of what we saw last year, so let's continue to watch that. I hope Ertz goes away, but let's watch that. Jalen Reagor, is he as good as everybody thinks he is? Today seems like it was the week for Jalen. These past few days seems like it was the past few days were like for Jalen Reagor. I heard a lot of good stuff coming out about him. In camp, he seems to do great, but when he's on the field, he doesn't really do much. So let's see what he does. Kenny Gainwell. Let's see if he's moved up and he starts to kind of eat into Boston Scott's reps during when it's Boston Scott's time to come on the field after Miles Sanders. I don't even know if Miles Sanders will play, but let's see what else they do with Kenny Gainwell. Let's see how else they deploy him. Let's see how many times he splits those number 2 duties or those number 1 duties with Boston Scott, because they released Kerryon Johnson. We know that they released Kerryon Johnson this year, so that's one less person we have to worry in the backfield. Kenny G, let's keep an eye on the Patriots. Let's watch the Pats QB battle. I honestly think Mac Jones was kind of the better quarterback last week. I think that Cam Newton was still showing signs of holding onto the ball too long. But they are 2 different quarterbacks with 2 different play styles. So let's continue to watch that. Let's see if anybody definitively pulls ahead. Let's see what the offense looks like without Smith and Henry. I know Smith and Henry are dealing with their own individual injuries, and I believe they're minor, but I don't think the Patriots are going to risk it by putting them on the field for a second preseason game. So like we were saying earlier, Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, the tight end position is pivotal to the Patriots offense. I want to see if the Patriots offense can sustain itself without the 2 tight ends. And if they can, let's see which quarterback can do it better, because I think that's going to be a really telling sign of who plays better without the tight ends in this system. And if the Patriots can't do so well without the 2 tight ends, it's gonna even emphasize more how important Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry are to this offense, and it's gonna only increase them in my eyes. It's gonna increase their up values furthermore. So let's watch that. Also, let's watch the running backs. I like all the running backs on this roster. I love even Sony Michel. I like Damian Harris. I'm sure is the lead guy. I don't think that's changing anytime soon. James White is the passing down guy, but look, Ramondre Stevenson, he went off last week. I know it was in garbage time. I understand there were circumstances that people want to brush off that huge run, that 91-yard run. I like J.J. Taylor a lot. J.J. Taylor is my favorite guy of this entire backfield. I think he's going to be the eventual replacement for James White after his 1-year contract ends. And Sony Michel, I put out a tweet earlier saying I think if Sony Michel is on the roster bubble, to keep Sony Michel as a stash, because I think he will be scooped up by a team like the Rams, who aren't so sold on Xavier Jones and Jake Funk. So let's keep an eye out on these guys. Let's keep an eye on how this backfield is moving. We know how the primary down back and the pass catching back are deployed, but let's watch who eats, who's the next man up, who's the last man up in the backfield rotation as that game progresses and goes on to the end.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of those, and I'm glad that's a Thursday night game, so can watch that and kind of keep track of that a little bit more, because I know last week the Thursday night game I was really able to focus in on, mostly because being at the Expo I didn't get to watch all of the games. I watched a lot of the highlights, so yeah, I think that's great. So that's the show tonight. I just want to say that we have made sure to check us out on Twitter. I also made an Instagram, and we're on TikTok. I'm not very good at TikTok, so I'm still learning how to do that. So, we're working through that. And we also have the YouTube channel that you can subscribe and see these videos. And we hope to do little short videos throughout the season too. So I am Brandon Hay at HayB3.
And I'm ZCantsFF. And I also want to say that we will be going live on Wednesday nights going forward from now on. So just want to throw that in there.
Yes, that is correct. So, so thanks everyone, and see you next week.